It's time for Football at 4 with 97.3 ESPN.com's Andrew DiCecco.
My first allegiance is what will be best for the Philadelphia Eagles and our fans for the next 3, 4, 5 years.
Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios. It's Football at 4.
Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast and is brought to you by PropSwap, America's sports betting marketplace. Sell your sports bets, take your profit, find out how at PropSwap.com or download the PropSwap app today. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. Andrew DiCecco's in the house today. Don't forget, Lane Johnson joins me tonight at 5 o'clock. We'll talk to Eagles right tackle Lane Johnson in 1 hour from now, but we are on the NFL draft. I'll actually talk to Lane and ask him, does he think they need help at offensive line, at offensive tackle, if Rashawn Slater's on the board at 12 or Penei Sewell is falling? Should the Eagles move up, or does he think he likes the group that they have? We'll do that with Lane Johnson in an hour, but right now, Andrew DiCecco, Football at 4, right now on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. And don't forget, if you're watching the show live, you can see the stream at 97.3ESPN.com. Andrew DiCecco, what's up, my man?
What's up, Mike? And I have a feeling that when you ask Lane that, he's going to say that the offensive line's good as is.
Right, and you don't agree with him.
I would tend to say they need to add some help there.
I know me and you disagree a little bit on that one. I understand with what you're saying. There's a player that's very good in a play, but I feel like they have so many other holes and they have in-house options that at least I'm intrigued by. Like, I want to see if Jordan Mailata can play that position. By the way, I'll ask Lane Johnson, what about him playing left tackle and playing someone else at right tackle? How about that?
Yeah, I think that's going to be a great question. I'm interested to see how he answers that because, I mean, that would solve a lot of issues, at least in the interim, until they have a plan in place to add some young talent there in the coming years.
Right. I feel like a lot of people are so down, number one, on Dillard. Like, you bring up Dillard's name, and he might as well have like a third leg. You know what I mean? Like, he's just off the radar. This is a guy they traded up to get in the draft not 5 years ago, 2 years ago. I mean, and now he's just basically, like a leper all of a sudden. Nobody wants anything to do with him, but I don't know. What about you? I thought Mailata played pretty well there last year. I'd like to see the kid get a shot to take that job.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think he's going to have every opportunity to do so. When you look at what he did in his 10-game sample size as a starter, was more remarkable than anything we've seen out of Andre Dillard. And Andre Dillard's been playing that position a heck of a lot longer than Jordan Mailata. But there's room for encouragement when you saw what Jordan Mailata was able to do on the field. And I think that for the team to hand the reins over to Andre Dillard, that's not going to happen. They're going to have a little bit of a battle there in training camp. And I ultimately think that it's going to be Jordan Mailata that wins that.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I mean, but are you at least intrigued by Dillard? I mean, to see like, hey, this guy was a first-round pick. He was playing left tackle where he wanted to play, not the right side. They traded up to get him. Maybe who knows? Maybe he's actually pretty good.
I mean, I was a lot higher on him going into the draft. I must say I had him rated pretty high, but I have to say from what we've seen from him, I'm not very intrigued with him at all as a pro prospect. I mean, to me, he looks more like a top reserve type of lineman, like a Halapulu Vati Vaitai type player, like he was with the Eagles. But I haven't really seen enough from Andre Dillard that really stood out as far as saying, hey, you know what, he took his lumps, but there's something there. You know what I mean? Like I think that he has a lot to prove. That's for sure.
Well, there was a lot of people that were questioning his toughness. I mean, in his rookie season, and then he didn't play very well that night in the game when he had to play right tackle, and he kind of complained about it. He was, I'm not really a right tackle. So that kind of rubbed people the wrong way. But for me, at 12, now if Penei Sewell falls to 12, maybe I feel a little different. I certainly wasn't all that interested at 6, maybe at 12, depending on who else is there. But you, in your latest mock draft over at InsideTheBirds.com, you have pick 12, J.C. Horn, the son of Joe Horn, cornerback out of South Carolina. And for those of you who haven't really watched this guy, big, physical corner, 6'1", 205. He's got good length, toughness. This guy would be a really good fit across from Darius Slay.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the Eagles really need help at corner, and they can't afford – when you have needs everywhere, you have to at least start to add some building blocks to defense, which they really don't have. And when you look at their struggles at corner, let's get it. They need to just get it right this time. And don't overthink the pick. You're going to likely have your pick between Pat Surtain and you're going to have J.C. Horn there. And when you look at what he is, he's 6'1", 205. There's length, there's toughness that you're going to finally bring to the perimeter. He has that NFL bloodline. His father, of course, was Joe Horn. He's going to have the versatility, and he has the excellent change of direction, and he can handle receivers of all shapes and sizes. He brings that alpha mentality, and he's even a little bit too physical at times, which I think that with proper coaching, that can be they're going to have to rein that in because that's going to lead to a lot of penalties at the next level. But he is of that Jalen Ramsey type of mold as far as a physical player that you can put out there, and he's going to be able to handle any team's top receiver.
I want to get your opinion before we go on to the rest of your mock draft here. Yesterday they signed Eric Wilson, the linebacker. They brought back Jordan Howard. They have Anthony Harris. So you've added Harris. You've got Eric Wilson. What did you think of Wilson and how he'll fit in on this defense?
Well, there's obviously the familiarity there. And like we've talked about, I believe we had a really good conversation last week about the hybrid type of linebackers, coverage guys. And that's really what he's going to bring to the defense. He's still needs a little bit work as a physical run stopper, but that can you can find ways to sort of mask those deficiencies now in today's game. But I think that when you look at what he brings from an athletic standpoint, the sideline to sideline speed, the coverage acumen, I mean, that's really what you're looking for at a second level linebacker. So I think that he can be a stopgap type of player while you grab a younger linebacker that you look to develop. So I think he can step in and make a contribution right away while you have some young talent like the Davion Taylor and whoever they may look to draft in this draft. You'll have them in the back learning from him.
Yeah, I bring that up because I realize your second pick, number 37, is Baron Browning, a linebacker. Now, did the signing yesterday, will that make you change your opinion on that pick in the second round at linebacker?
No. I think they really need to start to add some youth to that, some impactful youth to the linebacker position. And you look at his skill set and his size and his athleticism and what he can bring to the second level. You're talking there, and he was by far the best defensive player in that range that the Eagles. He's a plug and play guy, and you look at what Jonathan Gannon had when he was the Colts defensive backs coach. He saw the impact that Darius Leonard and Bobby Okereke had on their defense. So, it may not have been a priority with the old regime, but this one can hold the linebacker position in a higher regard. So I think that's something to keep in mind and not entirely rule out. And he has the skill set of the modern NFL linebacker, and that's really what the defense needs right now. They tried that with Nathan Gary. He's a former safety, and they liked his athleticism, but it just didn't work out. Davion Taylor's still a ways away from making contribution, but Browning, he's a plug and play guy that can step in and start day one.
All right, we're talking with Andrew DiCecco, Football at 4. We do it every day, 4 o'clock football right here on the Sports Bash. We've got some questions coming in on the video stream that we want to throw your way on the draft, Andrew. Beth wants to know, Would you be mad? Now, I mean, obviously you're not mad or happy. You're covering the team, but do you think it would be a good pick or a bad pick if the Eagles went with Caleb Farley? Are you starting to get concerned with the back problem? So if they took him at 12, what would you think?
Well, Beth, that's a great question, and I always had Caleb Farley ranked as my top corner going into the draft. I thought that J.C. Horn could challenge for the top cornerback spot, but obviously now by default it's between him and Surtain. I think, unfortunately, Caleb Farley's going to tumble a little bit out of the first round because of the injury history, the back issues. He had the ACL in 2017. But out of all the corners, the top, the big three, I should say, he has the highest upside. It's going to be availability is going to be his biggest question. And when the Eagles, with their lengthy injury history, and the Sidney Jones, that starts to come into play there, the history there, and I think that they might want to stay away from bringing in that type of player into the fold.
All right, let's get some more questions here before we continue to go through your mock draft. Andrew, do you still feel the same way about the Eagles trade if they end up with someone like Quitty Pay or an offensive lineman now, or if they trade back again?
That's another great question. And, yeah, I like the trade either way because they did add another asset. They're still going to get a difference maker there at 12. You mentioned Quitty Pay, and Quitty Pay is somebody that's not going to be flashy. It's not going to generate a very desirable headline. It's not a gaudy pick, but he has inside outside versatility. He's powerful. He's athletic, and he really adds a significant depth to a position of need. The Eagles really don't have a contributing young defensive end you can rely on outside of Josh Sweat. I don't include Derek Barnett in that because he still has a lot to prove. But Josh Sweat is someone that he's not really equipped to handle the lion's share of snaps due to his lengthy injury history. So I think adding a guy like Quitty Pay, Brandon Graham's getting a little bit older, that would be someone that I think would have a long-term benefit, and it might not pay off right away, but I think that he's kind of like Brandon Graham. I think that he would eventually be a long-term fixture off the edge.
All right.
So I think they're going to get a contributing player there at 12.
Another question coming in wants to know, interesting question from the Inside the Birds guys today. So this guy's listening to both Inside the Birds and Football at 4. Cannot get enough football. Says they believe, I guess that's Mosher and Kaplan, that Carolina takes a cornerback now, which would potentially take one away from the Eagles, and I think we think Dallas might take one at 10. So do you think that 8 Carolina and 10 Dallas both take corners?
Well, I think it's feasible that Carolina certainly takes one. They need help on their defense in a big way, and they're going to have a chance to select the top corner, which will, by most accounts, it's going to be Pat Surtain, and I think that he's a plug-and-play guy that can step in right away. He has a more refined skill set than the other two premier blue-chip corners. But as far as Dallas, let's not forget they took Trayvon Diggs last year. They have a lot of other needs as well, so that's far from a certainty that they would take a corner. But I do see Carolina as a probable now that they might take a corner, which I think, kind of goes to my point, which I think that J.C. Horn could kind of fall right into the Eagles' lap there at 12.
All right, a couple more comments coming in for Andrew DiCecco here. Harris wants to know, who do you, Andrew, see Dallas and New York drafting at number 10 and 11?
Well, I think Dallas could be certainly in play for maybe a Micah Parsons. I think that his skill set might be too tantalizing for Jerry Jones to pass on. I also wouldn't be surprised if they go like the Devontae Smith route to add some more weaponry to their offense. They usually don't shy away from that. It's kind of hard to say what direction they can go. Russo at the edge rusher. They can go a lot of ways because, like the Eagles, they have a lot of deficiencies. So those are just a few guys I can see them going. Corner ordinarily would be a direction I could see them possibly going, but they did add Trayvon Diggs last year, so I kind of think that might go out the window.
All right, talking with Andrew DiCecco here, Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. If you guys have questions for Andrew, you can continue to send them in on the video stream. Frank says he hears Dallas is in love with Kyle Pitts. If Dallas gets him, they will be almost impossible to stop. Do you think Dallas is in play for Pitts if he's at number 10? Although I don't think you think he's going to be at 10.
I don't believe he'll be at 10, Frank. But I mean, man, if you're Jerry Jones and it's going to be hard for him to pass on a Kyle Pitts. He's enamored with his offensive skill players. We know that. We see that. He came away with CeeDee Lamb last year, and he loves Zeke Elliott, and I think that the prospects of adding Kyle Pitts at 10 are slim. But if he's there, you can rest assured that I think that's going to be their pick.
All right, here's one for you. Would Andrew mind if the Eagles double dipped at corner? And what are the options in rounds 3, 5, and even round 2? I mean, double dipping at quarter, I would almost say you wouldn't mind. You would advocate. Yeah,
they really do need a pair because, I mean, Darius Slay's not getting any younger, and they really need to start kind of like when they added Lito and Sheldon back in 2002. That's really what they need. They need to retool that entire secondary, and it's going to take a couple years. But yeah, this is the draft to start to add some of that talent, because you can find guys in the third, fourth round, even in the second round. I like Eric Stokes from Georgia in the second round. Even on day 3, there's a guy I like named Thomas Graham. He's more of the nickel mold. He's a 5'11", 200 pounds, scrappy guy, tough. Great short area quickness. He's from Oregon, and I think that he could step in day 1 and play some nickel for you. I mean, there's going to be a ton of those type of guys out there, and hopefully they come away with 2, because that's really what they need. And also Tay Gallen from UCF is someone who's sort of climbing up draft boards. He's a little bit longer, not quite as quick as some of the other corners that I mentioned. But I think he also offers some length and size that Jonathan Gannon's worked with in the past, so he'd be a name to watch as well.
Bruce says, I wouldn't mind doubling down on corner. Andrew, what do you think about Horn and Samuel at pick number 37?
Wow, that's something to think about. I mean, talk about that pairing. You get the best of both worlds. You get an alpha, tough, physical, tenacious corner like a J.C. Horn. Then you get a playmaker, a scrappy, aggressive corner on the other side. They can play inside or outside. He played a lot of man coverage in college, and I do think that he's the type of player that you would feel comfortable selecting because of his pedigree, and you have the sense that his dad is not going to let his son be a bust or not ready to step in and contribute on day 1. So I think that he would be a safe option and also a great fit. So that's something to really keep an eye on as well. That's a great question.
All right, I want to go back to your Eagles mock draft. You've got the Eagles going corner, linebacker, edge rusher with Patrick Jones from Pittsburgh. Fourth round is finally, this would be late third round, right? Is pick 84 would be late in the third. So that's where the Eagles, you finally have them going wide out with that second pick in the third round with De'Ami Brown out of North Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, wide receivers in need, don't get me wrong, but you also don't want to reach, and you don't want to force something if it's not there. And they're going to have an opportunity this is a deep wide receiver class, and they're going to have an opportunity to get somebody like a De'Ami Brown from North Carolina. And, you might hear, he's not going to be there at 84. One thing you learn, it's a rule of thumb when assessing the draft, is you never speak in absolutes, because every year there's always someone who slides. You look at Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. A few years ago, everybody had him pegged as a first-round pick, and he went in the third round. These things happen all the time. But anyway, the skill set that he brings some size. He brings a lot of speed, a vertical element there. Tracks the ball very well. I think he would complement the young receivers that they already have in the Jalen Ragers, the Hightowers, the Quez Watkins, and give a young stable of receivers for Jalen Hurts to grow with. And, that would be some sort of a track team at receiver if you're able to kind of reel him in at 84.
All right, let's get another question from a listener. John D. wants to know, Andrew, if both Parsons and Horn are on the board at 12, who would you draft?
Well, I would take Horn, because I am, to kind of put it in these terms, I'm higher on Horn than I am Michael Parsons, and I like both of them a lot. I mean, those who follow my covers know how much I like both of those players. But I also think that at 37, you're going to have a chance to get a guy like a Baron Browning, who also, he's no slouch, and his skill set is very comparable to Michael Parsons. Might not have the big play potential, and the flashiness and the overall athleticism that Micah has, but I mean, he's going to be a day 1 starter and an early contributor. So I think if you get a top corner, who I actually have J.C. Horn. I mean, throughout the whole draft process, I was like, yeah, he might be my cornerback 1. You get a top corner, and then you get the second best linebacker by many accounts. I mean, that's a pretty good haul.
Also, a question, Andrew. Who is your closest NFL comparison for J.C. Horn? And by the way, if you're watching the video, you see Andrew's mock draft is up on the screen, so you can check out the players that we haven't quite hit on yet over at InsideTheBirds.com. But question wants to know, who's your comparison for Horn?
When I see J.C. Horn play, the first person that comes to mind is Jalen Ramsey. And just from a size, physicality perspective, when he's on the field, he wants the top guy. He's not afraid to make a tackle. They're scrappy. They're going to get after it, and they're not afraid to, to push their boundaries, so to speak, as far as officiating goes. So that's the most obvious comparison in my opinion.
Well, if you end up getting a player of that magnitude at number 12, that trade's a home run.
Well, he's not necessarily going to be. He's not he needs some overall polish to his game. He's not a Pat Surtain where he's going to step in there right away and not need a whole lot of refinement. I mean, there's certain areas of his game that he's been able to get by with overall athleticism. But I think you get him into an NFL building, his upside is tremendous, and I think his upside is greater than Patrick Surtain. So I think that in time he's going to be that dominant All-Pro corner that he's going to be drafted to be.
All right, there we go. A lot of questions for Andrew today on the draft.
Great questions.
Yeah, good questions. As we get closer to this draft, we will continue to take your questions live for Andrew and the guys for Football at 4. Check out his mock draft over at InsideTheBirds.com. And, of course, he, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. And Andrew will be back on Tuesday. More draft questions as we'll be 1 week closer. More draft conversation here on Football at 4. All right, Andrew, good stuff, man.
Yeah, Mike, take care. Have a great weekend.
You do the same. And he, like August, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. Andrew DiCecco, Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. And, of course, tomorrow, Jeff Mosher's here. Adam Kaplan is back on Friday next week. Adam was on Monday's show, and Jeff will be on tomorrow's show. So Jeff pinch hitting for Adam. Adam pinch hit for him on Monday. So the Inside the Birds guys, of course, bringing you Football at 4.